Day 2, designing good, smart goals for desired learning. Being able to sketch out initial questions in order to explore a very specific goal. Now, your brainstorm from day 1 will likely be branching out to include several different types of goals. There's going to be a lot of different information you're going to be looking up. So let that be your guide for tracking and adjusting your progress toward different goals. But today I want to look at how to design a SMART goal to make sure that what you're aiming at as far as your learning goal is based on a specific skill. And it's nice because when it comes to things like math and language arts, there are specific standards that allow you to see the broader map, the broader pathways that allow you to reflect on what may be expected, not to get a sticker or a good grade, but to prepare you for what's coming in greater and later grade levels, so that not that you are passing or completing worksheets. That's not the point of learning. The point is knowing which steps to take so that you progress and learn more complex things over time. So that's why I like these grade level standards being designed in this way. So if you take, for example, this 6th grade standard, 6EE1, that's just the code for reference. What this particular standard is addressing is write and evaluate numerical expressions involving whole number exponents. So just like we did with brainstorming, if we look at what the standard is actually looking for, and we break down the words used to describe it, we're going to want to be able to write, all right? That's a verb that we're going to want to be able to write, and we're going to have to be able to evaluate, all right? Now, our SMART goals are going to need us to be very specific about what our goal is going to be. Now, in this case, we're focused on a particular standard. So we're going to focus on 6EE1, writing and evaluating numerical expressions, all right? Numerical expressions. So we're going to have to know what numerical expressions are, all right? This is something that we can look up. We can type this into Google. We can email a professor. We can email a teacher. We can contact, whoever it is that you go for help, or websites or videos. This you can look up. This is easy. Let's see here. Numerical expressions involving whole number exponents. So we're going to want to make sure we understand what exponents are. All right, numerical expressions, we have to write them that involve exponents, and we have to evaluate these with exponents. So this is a very specific standard. Now, we're going to want to make sure that our goal is measurable, meaning, how do we know we're making progress? Well, if the first thing is to define the language, if we're just learning words, then let's make that be our first step, right? Because once we know what these words are, we can then start using them, yes? So now let's maybe make the second step writing these numerical expressions, cool. And then maybe the third step is evaluating. So we're gonna want to know what evaluating means exactly. Like, what do you want me to do in order to evaluate? That's part of our brainstorming, that's part of our being specific. But notice there's a measurable path that says we're getting closer to being able to do what this standard is asking us to do. So first we define the language, we figure out what these words are, what these different things are, we learn to write them, and then we learn to evaluate them. So just making a measurable progress chart so that we can keep track of where we are, because we can't just magically evaluate things. We have to really take learning into small bites. That's what makes it measurable. Now the next thing we got to make sure we know is did we just describe things that are achievable? Can we look up these words? Is that achievable? Is that attainable? Is that reasonable? So I know how to write. I don't know if I can evaluate things. I know that I'm not going to be able to make a board game for this. That's not achievable. I know I'm not going to be able to make a box office movie, you know, there's going to be things that are achievable as far as what I'm expecting myself to do. So maybe I have I create a worksheet, right? Create a worksheet. Not solve one, not do one, not be handed one and turn it in, but actually create a worksheet that maybe a teacher could use in their classroom. By creating that, maybe that's a project that's achievable to reflect this learning. Let's see. Then we're going to make sure it's realistic. Is that something we can do? Is it not just achievable, but do we have the materials and resources to create a worksheet? Do we have papers and pencils? Do we have colors? Yes. Do we have internet to look up certain expressions? If not, do we have, is it realistic that we can find this by walking down to the library and asking for a dictionary? You know, is it realistic what we're asking ourselves to do? And then lastly, is it timely? So these are the 5 parts of a SMART goal. And the timely aspect is, are we expecting us to be done with this today? Are we giving ourselves a week? Are we giving ourselves a month? And if we are, if we're going to say a day, a week, a month, or a day, is it something that's timely? Is it something where we can't take all year working on one skill, right? Because we're going to want to get to the related 7th grade skill. So making sure that we're clear on these, not to get a reward, not to get a sticker or candy or a grade or something, but because we want to make sure that when we're done with 6EE1, when we get that when we swipe to 7th grade, we're going to be able to make sense of these 7th grade standards that connect to it. So there's concepts in 6th grade that we're going to want to master in order to be ready for 7th grade. And setting good goals allows us to measure specific skill sets that we can achieve that are realistic in a timely manner. And that is a SMART goal. So we can do this as we brainstorm and we branch out and we learn new things, and then we start to set goals for ourselves. That's day 2. That's the day 2 challenge, is learning how to set SMART goals, especially as you start to brainstorm. And you're going to want to cycle back. You're going to want to circle back to your brainstorm. You're going to want to maybe adjust your SMART goals. It's okay to adjust goals. Make sure that the goals are reasonable. Make sure they're things that you can do. And make sure that you're learning not just what to learn, but learning how to learn. Brainstorming, setting good SMART goals. You're on your way to being a self-directed learner.